I'm trying to better myself. My wife says she wants to see more from me, or she's upset with me. She doesn't feel like she's fulfilled in this relationship right now. So I'm really trying to bring a new level of myself, but she isn't seeing my changes, even though I'm fixing myself. Or maybe she is seeing them, but it doesn't seem to be improving our relationship. There's men that request one-on-one calls every day. And here's an example, a snippet of one man who is saying that he wants to grow as an individual and find some passion in his life. He hopes to find his true calling. I hope to get my wife back in the process. So this is very common. Okay, I know I need to fix myself. She even says I need to do things for my own self. And I'm hoping to get my wife back in the process of this, right? He also says his wife is totally uninterested in our marriage right now, not attracted to me, and completely disengaged. I don't really have a true passion in life for myself, he says. I feel like I'm spinning my wheels trying to find some direction. And that's what we're going to talk about here is, okay, for the man that's trying to fix himself for her, what's wrong? What's wrong with that? And how can we turn this around? Here's another quick example. This man has been in our community for quite a while. He's having continued success, ever levels of increasing success. Here's a snippet of what he emailed me a couple of days ago. He said, I've been really practicing the no quid pro quo gratitude and being the king, regardless of how the people that depend on me feel towards me. Last night, my wife accidentally sideswiped a car in a parking lot doing the kids' taxi runaround and called me in tears. We'd already had some things come up with the kids that day that were very emotionally hard. I responded as a high value man should. I was calm. I made sure she was okay. I reassured her that we'd work through whatever the outcome was together and checked in on how she was feeling. That night, she said, in those moments, I really feel cared for by you. I consciously received that without internalizing any expectations about what that might get me or mean. In other words, I'm not trying to be perfect for her. I'm not trying to quid pro quo do things so that she loves me, do things for sex, do things so the relationship is getting better. And strangely enough, I'm not sharing the rest of the email, but the rest of the email was she started to come on to him. She started to feel attracted to him in that moment. She came on to intimacy with him. And we'll probably talk about that more in our private groups that we hold another time, that particular man's situation. But I wanted to share that when you do this work, you're not doing it for her, of course. We all know this intellectually. So let's get into, well, let's pull back the curtain today on the C Note Show here with myself and Miss Cynthia Cruz. Loving and being loved is an art, not only is relationship a science, but it's also an art. We all want to feel connected. And last time, if you're watching this on YouTube, we talked about my wife picks me apart for the little stuff and what should I say to her. So after this, you can go back and watch our other calls. But today, wife isn't seeing my changes even after I'm fixing myself. So, Cynthia, before we begin, what is it like if a man's trying to do things just for her? Okay, she's unhappy. It's been 1 or 2 years at least when she's been disillusioned about what's going on. She thinks, man, why isn't he getting this? Or hasn't he been here? Hasn't he been getting my hints? Hasn't he read the signs? And now he's actively trying to fix things for her. So what's wrong with that perspective? What does that feel like for a woman when he's trying to do it for her?
Yeah, and I'll say her perspective is not logical and it makes little sense, I would imagine, when the effort is being put in, when you're putting in the effort of what you want to give, but the way she perceives that of it's just being done for her, there's almost again her perception of shallowness to it, as in, gosh, there must be some hook here. Maybe he's just going to act a certain way until I say, okay, we're fine. Let's get everything back to normal. And then things will return to the way they were. She also can really be clued into that evolutionary part of a woman who's so on hyper alert for any kind of sign of being manipulated or having kind of the wool, pulled over her
Hmm.
eyes.
And why is why is being manipulated something that she doesn't want? What viscerally is that like for a woman?
Yeah, I mean it because it's so instinctual. I mean, her brain is really wired to be watching for this. because it's so instinctual. It really goes into that like cool, almost like sick stomach feeling, like something's off. And that will really fuel her. I'm not going to trust you, or I'm not going to trust this relationship. And it's really her projecting outward this feeling inside her guts.
Yeah. Thanks for getting us started. So the men that are here live, we want to hear your questions. So post in the chat or raise your hand and let's keep going forward. This is from No More Mr. Nice Guy by Robert Glover. It's an excerpt. Seeking the approval of women. Nice guys seek external validation in just about every social situation, but their quest for approval is the most pronounced in their relationships with women. Nice guys interpret a woman's approval as the ultimate validation of their worth. Signs of a woman's approval can take the form of her desire to have sex, flirtatious behavior, a smile, a touch, or attentiveness. At the other end of the spectrum, if a woman is depressed, in a bad mood, or angry, nice guys interpret these things to mean that she's not accepting or approving of them, even if it has nothing to do with you. There are numerous negative consequences in seeking the approval of women. Seeking a woman's approval requires nice guys to constantly monitor the possibility of a woman's availability. The possibility of availability is a term I use, he says, to describe the subjective measure of a woman's sexual availability. I'm going to ask Cynthia about this here in a second. Since nice guys see sex as the ultimate form of acceptance, and they believe a woman must be in a good mood before she will have sex, these men are constantly diligent to not do anything that might upset a woman whom they desire. In addition, if a woman they desire is angry, depressed, or in a bad mood, they believe they must do something quickly, lie, offer solutions, sacrifice self, manipulate to fix it. So even as
Yeah.
even as I'm reading this, Cynthia, it feels very surface level, very manipulative, as we were just saying. Like he doesn't know who he is. He's just trying to pander to her. What does this come across? Why is this not good? That he must do something quickly to try to fix it, and that okay, the whole goal is to get her sexual availability. And what does that feel like in terms of level one, two, three relationship, like we teach? How's this come across?
Well, yeah, I mean, first of all, it makes perfect sense that that would be in the purview of like watching her. Is she available to give love? Because that's the joy and the magic of feminine energy, is the ability to give love and connection. However, when it is kind of in this energy and it's a constant monitoring, she will feel that, and she'll feel that as a pressure, not just like she feels pressured in her mind, but her whole body will feel pressured, almost like she's in really deep water. And because she's kind of on hyper alert in that situation, she's really going to kind of shut down her natural movement, her openness, because it feels easier to stay closed to feeling that pressure than be open and feel it, and then open and feel it.
And on other calls, we talk about how to invite her through that openness.
Yeah.
Yeah, but here let's keep stepping forward. In the chat, is it a true paradox that a woman doesn't want you to try to make her happy? Just make her happy. Yeah, like you should just know, you should be able to read her mind. So what's that about? I had a discussion with a client that said, I said to my wife, I want to know what makes her happy. And she said, if I have to tell you, then it's invalid, then it doesn't matter, then it's not worthy. It doesn't actually, you don't mean it. And he said, what the
Mm-hmm.
hell? Of course I mean it. Of course I want to make her happy. Isn't this why we come to relationship? So we can do things, even if maybe it's not the first thing that we would think of, but do things to try to make the other person happy. So what is that about, Cynthia, first blush? If you try to make her happy instead of just making her happy, what is that? How does that run up against her?
Well, I'd say initially that's kind of a level one exchange of her saying, well, you should just know. She's not in touch with a deeper realization in herself of how much in her femininity and her energy body she just craves, yearns, and desires to be seen and deeply known. And I say that, and I know that's obtuse and not concrete, but it's behind the, well, you should just know, because there's a very deep desire in her to be known, as in you value her enough, or you pay attention to her enough that you can almost know her better than she knows herself.
So help me put a pin in something. What if she actually doesn't really want to be known more deeply?
Mm.
This idea of avoidant attachment or dismissive avoidant has come up a lot. So what if she doesn't really want to be known more deeply? Let's put a pin in that. And let's address more of the surface level first. So there's another question in the chat. Women are constantly pursued in the world. How can I, the husband, invite her back into relationship without her feeling the pressure? Well, so how do I not have her feel pressure is a bit of a different question. So maybe Cynthia can talk with us about that too. Let's look at this really quickly. I always like to present research. So, by Dr. Gunther here from Psychology Today, are you the only one trying to fix your relationship? It's hard to change a relationship by yourself. For instance, are they willing to look honestly at their own contributions? Can they still listen deeply? Can they reopen a discouraged heart? Right? Human beings are traders by nature. Every relationship is give and get interaction. New lovers give and rarely ask for anything that is not offered. But every relationship has offers and costs. When both partners fully understand and commit to both, they sign a contract in good faith. There are no expectations that are not already clearly laid out. So, after the fact complaining is not acceptable by either partner. The sadness is that people often change over time, find themselves pulling back on initially expressed favors, or have new desires that invalidate the initial agreement. So, are you still willing to pay the price for this relationship? Is this partnership as it is worth it to you? Can you give up the attachments that are making you participate in the contract? Sounds kind of like a nice guy covert contract that you originally agreed to. So, the give and take in relationship, well, surface level, there's the carrot and the stick. And very briefly, we want to be a man that's fun and easy to be around, that we have a big mission and a journey in our life. We have vision for the future and vision for intimacy, that we're being our full self. And what does that mean? That we're living our values, we're shooting for the horizon with integrity. And we don't want to be using the stick of brooding or little boy complaining, entitlement, controlling, right? And so the carrot is the time that we offer. The carrot is the attention that we offer. And we don't want to use the stick. We want to use the carrot. So let's go to, well, Cynthia, what if she doesn't really want any of that right now? What if, me trying to fix myself is even pushing her away more because I'm trying to do it for her? What if she's not wanting time? What if she's not wanting to be seen more deeply right now? At least right now, what does that mean? Take us there.
Any woman who does not want to be seen deeply, something's really off. And we could say, oh, it's a personality trait of hers and she's extremely avoidant. We could say that this is her armor and shield and she doesn't want to be known by you. But I think I'd really like to share that behind the curtain of that, if she doesn't want to be seen or known by you, it's because of her own running away from herself and an incredible dismissiveness of her own self that she doesn't even want to look at.
Yeah, please. I
Ah,
I didn't catch up yet on what you were chatting with a
oh,
few minutes ago. So tell us what your perspective is of this, please.
thank y'all for getting together. I am blessed to have this vast array of support here. We have been married 3 years, been together 8. We've both been through 3 marriages. The long story short is my biggest challenge is I know I've changed. I mean, she came into the relationship and we were in a polyamorous relationship. And that lasted 3 months. I said, I can't work and have all this. It just didn't work. It was not, it was no calming to the soul. You get home and you go, okay, I now have to meet the needs of 2 people, not just one.
Mm.
I mean, who I yeah, it was like a calendar. I had one free day a month. We've moved along. We have both made the commitment to the monogamy, and she still resents that I brought her into that relationship. And it's been 2.5 years, going on nearly 3 years that we closed the door. But she wants me to talk about it all the time. She wants me to make amends for it. She wants me to do some 9-step work on it. And if she brings it up and I go, I'll listen. God, that hurt. Really, I'm really sorry that I didn't protect you from that. And I don't get any credit because she brought it up first. I have to be the one to bring it up first, that it's in my thoughts. And I've been in recovery since the late 80s. But the part of the 9th step, you're making amends, is also to me saying,
Mm.
I forgive you. You did the best you can. You survived whatever drove you to do that decision.
Where are you in that forgiveness right now?
Oh, pretty big, pretty big. I've been around long enough to realize, and I've had great sponsors and friends to say, yeah, you made it through and keep working at it. And I've worked very hard to make amends. And when I recall somebody I haven't damaged even today, I get out my broom and clean it up. And how I act out in public, the slightest. I love what your quote about us reaching out and needing affirmation from women. My God, they are my kryptonite and my goal and my food source. They are both.
Right.
And I've had to, and this is just in the last 2 weeks, to write about and talk about the fact that the prettier she is, the more uncomfortable I get and the more goofy I get immediately. And I can admit to that. And it comes from fear.
Mhm.
Fear. It comes out of fear. They're going to hurt me. I don't trust them. There's trouble. Here, let me list the ways that it happened in the past. But I can, instead of saying I'm uncomfortable in a crowd of women, I can now say, hey, I fear them. And I can go, oh, look at the fear. Fear, where is it? Where's that fear in your body? And it's usually around my heart, my gut. And I go, it's okay to have the fear. Now let's step in as the adult. So I've just in the last few weeks, I've got this. I'm not standing there dumbfounded. Why am I so uncomfortable?
Yeah, let me ask. I spoke
Yeah.
with another client yesterday about
Yeah.
fear, and he's gone from what he called a two-dimensional view, where the fear is like a brick wall in front of him,
Right,
to
right.
a three-dimensional view where he can see the fear, the brick wall, and it's okay. He doesn't have judgment of it. It's part of, yeah, it's part of our psyche, it's part of our ego, it's our
Yeah.
humanity. So
Yeah, please.
there's so many
And
external pressures in your life, and we love that you're here. I love your story. Let me ask for the theme of today, how do
uh-huh.
you see, how is it within you when you focus on yourself instead of trying to do it for her?
That's what I have to do. Boy, honey, I have to cut the cord, be the mountain lion, and just go, thanks, honey. How would you like to go get a cup of tea? Or you want to go sit in the hot tub and chat? Tell me more. I mean, I've got my emergency enhanced listening device, and it's a piece of red tape, and I just put it over my mouth.
Yeah, yeah.
And I show up literally with the red duct tape on my mouth. That starts the conversations in a good space.
Mm.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for being here.
Okay, so anyway, I'm here to listen. I know the short answer is it's her challenge. She has her standards. I don't have to dance in that fire. But by God, I would love it if we dance together.
Right. Yeah.
And
You invite, but you're okay if she doesn't accept. Yeah.
it's where I have to be, you know.
Beautiful.
You
Thanks.
too. I've enjoyed the two of you interaction with us and some of the old stuff I've watched. When you're retired, you have a lot of time.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Good to see you, man. Let's
Okay.
go to another question in the chat. So, number one, what if there's a boundary you simply have to lay down? It's hard to do without criticism. So, Cynthia, what would you say initially to that question? What if there's a boundary you simply have to lay down? It's hard to do without any criticism. What, this seems like maybe there's a fear there behind this man's question. What do you see behind the words there?
Yeah, I guess can I ask a clarifying, is it without her feeling criticized or without her responding with criticism toward you?
Yeah, it's why without her feeling good, I don't care if she criticizes me. But yeah, I don't want to shame her. She knows that what she does periodically is wrong. It's obvious. So, but on the end here, she continues to do it. And then, so it's very hard to know how to enter in that conversation without immediately triggering shame. And
Hmm.
I have no desire to do that.
And would you say her hairline for shifting in the shame is like it's huge? Is that just part of her
Easy to trip.
easier trip? So first, I guess level one, I even want to say it's okay for her to feel shame and criticized because every time she gets to actually experience that feeling, it's kind of evolving through it. It's not this compressed little kid experience. She gets to experience in a new environment with you. So even the aftermath of her feeling shamed and criticized with you could be the most valuable part. And then I would offer then the level two part of that is you don't have to have the perfect wording. Sometimes your physical body and just your presence as a man can say more than the perfect words. And so even when you speak to her, you have a hand on your heart, might even be enough to signal those like tripwires in her own brain that there's something a little bit different than this time. There's something different than the little kid experience she always had, or there's something different than what she experienced with you a year ago. How does that land?
I mean, I'll try it, but it's hard, you know. I mean, to put it bluntly, she rages. Rages at me. She rages. I don't care. I can zen my way through it now. I couldn't 3 years ago, but I can kind of zen my way through it now. She rages at the world, and the worst part is sometimes she rages at the kids, whom she will have half-time beginning in a few months because she's planning to move out. We're going to go 50-50. I won't be around to
It
protect
seems
them.
it seems like you so the kids are obviously incredibly that's a painful situation. Well, I was just going to say you sound like you're okay with the woman that she is, so to speak, that you're good within your own self. That's what it sounds like.
I'm okay. It's not a pleasant experience.
Right, certainly. Well, and there's a difference between she feels shame and you shaming her. And
That's
the
true.
yeah, and the skills there for you or for any man, for any person, but for you is do I feel relaxed and let's say wholesome and peaceful in myself when I'm speaking? Or do I feel like I'm trying to punish her? Am I projecting shame? Am I trying to make her feel bad? Or am I at peace within myself when I'm standing up for myself or saying what's okay with me, a boundary in the world? See, that those are different things, right? She feeling shame you can't control. You putting something on her you can. And I know that's a so where do you feel in terms of that? Can you tell when you feel at peace and you're talking with her?
Yeah, that's a nice, thank you. That's a nice way of framing it. Whatever feeling she's going to feel, it's very hard to raise these topics, but whatever feeling she's going to feel, that's not up to me, but I can do things in a way that will minimize the likelihood, where it's not me, coming on to
Yeah.
you do this.
Yeah. What are you seeing from his energy right now as we talk about this, Cynthia?
Yeah, even in that moment, I could feel your warmth, and Jeff referred to it as the wholesome energy, and I feel that in you, that groundedness that like kind of lives in your chest, and I find it connecting, and and even if it doesn't work with your wife, I can so imagine how other feminine energy totally gets to have like energy sourced from that to feel good in that kind of energy.
So again, if I may, if a particular man's wife isn't wanting, if she's just shoving him away and that's it, how can he navigate that? What will he see when she's really not wanting anything from him right now versus her just protecting herself?
Yeah, so protecting herself will be more of, words or phrases that kind of try to negate what you're saying. I mean, protecting herself could also look like turning away, but if you're dealing with a woman who is avoidant and dismissive, she will do everything in her power to try to create this hierarchy. And as if nothing you could say would be valuable to her, nothing you could say would be worth her time. And so she's going to move away with that kind of attitude.
So what if all that is really her responsibility? It's not for the man to fix.
It's like all of it's her responsibility. But if you're dealing with someone who's so running away from themselves that they can't even deem to be in a conversation with you, it's almost like we're dealing with a house, and here's the two floors of the house, and then here's the basement, and she's in the basement, and she has to walk up the stairs of the basement to at least meet you at the door of the first level of the house.
That's well put. Yeah, very good. Let's take a step forward and we'll go over to the chat again here in a second. If you're watching this on YouTube and you're not subscribed, hit subscribe, hit like if you're liking what you're hearing. If you want to be a part of these free calls, follow the link here. You can pause the video and go check out the link here. Check out our stuff, greatmenmovemountains.com. All right, today, of course, wife isn't seeing my changes even after I'm fixing myself. So I'll bounce into these takeaways and then we'll chat about it for the last few minutes here. You don't want to try to go back. Why would a man not want to try to go back? If a woman's felt frustrated for some number of years, she's off of the bridge of the relationship, she's backed away, she feels like the bridge was crumbling underneath her. Why is it a bad idea to try to invite her back into things versus stepping forward? Why is going back not a good idea?
Yeah, I guess I'll say first, it makes perfect sense to want to go back because I would imagine you have seen in the past things that really worked for your family and between the two of you. What's happening to her instinctually is that kind of cold, instinctual, something's not right, ooh, feeling. And so she's running on this instinctual brain now. And going back to her, I'll be hyperbolic for a moment, means death. Going forward has a lot more energy and possibility for her, even though she might not share that with you.
So the energy and possibility with her, even though she might not feel it. Look at the chat here. Despite the changes I feel within myself, she demands me to do something that proves my love. After multiple rejections of my mediocre and childish attempts, I freeze and my inaction drives her rage. And the cycle repeats and escalates. I'm not sure if this man can come in. If you can come in, unmute yourself and come on in. This reminds me of when we're children, every way that our parents act, we assume is loving. So whether they treat us well or badly, we just assume that everything they're doing is what love is. Yeah, come on in, please. Talk with us about this.
That's true. Then that's, I suppose, mostly what is going on. I mean, my biggest issue at the moment is that I am at a point where I'm at this blockage, this feeling of I'm being asked to run to some place, but my feet is being nailed to the ground. So I just run around in circles and drive this huge trench that proves my effort, but doesn't get me there. That's more or less the situation. So, I mean, my feeling at the moment is despite all the efforts and things that I try to do or not do, it's just this constant demand of me doing something that I don't even understand or know what it is. And as you guys were pretty much saying, I'm supposed to know. And if I don't know, then it's not worth it.
Yeah, let's talk about this. This is perfect. This is exactly what we're talking about today. So the last 2 points, and I'll ask Cynthia and then we'll bounce back to you. So number one, don't try to go back. Number two, the forest fire aims to burn off old dead habits from the past. And I want to ask Cynthia about this. What is it within her? What is the Kali, the destructress, the forest fire unconsciously attempting to do here? Because he's trying to do what she wants, but it's not working. He feels like his feet are nailed to the floor. She shames him, right? And this mediocre childish is an attempt to shame versus what we were talking about earlier. So the forest fire aims to burn off old dead habits from the past. We have to grow into that wisdom. And number three, I encourage you, and this is what we teach and talk about, mourning the old and build anew, starting with the next step, the next best step for you. So Cynthia, why is it that she he's trying to do everything that she wants, but it's backfiring? And what's going on there underneath the hood here for her, would you say? And what would you like to ask him?
That metaphor of you're being nailed down really hit me. So part of her not being happy with whatever's going on, like she says she wants this, but it doesn't make her happy, is that she actually is not completely aware and in tune to what she's actually seeking and wanting. And I know that's a very deep thing, and it's a very deep thing in her that she's unaware of. And I noticed that women don't understand what they're truly hungry for in partnership with a masculine man until that man stands in that energy and is that for himself, because then she gets to feel the thing that she's always been looking for without even realizing it. So that's kind of the spiritual angle I feel in that. And then, the forest fire aims to burn off all the dead. There is a part of women, and we could call it the Kali in them, the fire in them, who will keep the fire blazing and the teeth and nails out long past things have changed, because they're terrified of what it used to feel like. They don't believe yet. They don't trust the future, the vision that you have maybe for a relationship, or don't even believe it yet. And so she'll keep acting as if the old is still present, almost kind of like a wheel going around and around in the rut, and until she understands and she feels on a really deeper somatic level that, oh, this, there's something different.
So that was a lot. Where do you think that you are in this, owning what you want, her trying to burn off the old dead ways of the past? Where are you?
Well, I would have to be honest and say struggling. Our interactions have devolved into a 2 hour monologue that ends in the expectation of me doing something and me being stuck on the first three sentences. So it's like she just runs off, goes into her own dialogue, and then when I'm trying to say, hold on, slow down, I'm trying, you said this first thing and I'm trying to figure it out if I'm understanding it right or not. She just rages through the whole argument, snaps if I try to interrupt her or ask her to slow down. And then after the monologue ends, she looks at me expecting me to stand up and do something. And my only action that has gotten me the best outcome is just to remain quiet and at peace, trying to hold up my energy. And of course, as I wrote, this just fuels it back in. So it's in my, I mean, I believe there is something that I'm not seeing, but I struggle to see what it is. Therefore, the rot exists, and this thing just, this is a spiral that is going downwards.
Hmm.
Has been
Seems like she's wanting a fight. She's really wanting intense energy. How long have you guys been together?
17 years.
Okay. And what were things like at the beginning between the two of you? Was she like this from the very beginning?
No, of course not. I mean, the romantic and in love stage was big and beautiful. But after we got married and had our first kid, our only kid, I mean, she says, or she has explained, I changed. And I, looking at it, honestly understand that I have changed. I did change because I got scared. I got fearful because of all the responsibilities that, holding a family would entail. I was really young. I was 25, so I had no clue. And of course, I set into the relationship mimicking the only model that I had, which is my parents, which she eventually helped me understand are not a functional couple, and of course have nothing to do with what the relationship that we want to have. And I find myself somehow repeating some patterns that I have been slowly coming to consciousness, but the situation has gone into this desperate position where it's this, either you do something that proves me that you love me, or I'm not going to go into this thing anymore. And it's just stuck there, and it has been stuck there for probably 5 years. And at the beginning, I was confused and I started looking for answers and trying to understand what was going on, to a point where I started understanding me, knowing that it goes back to me, and working on myself. But this, as I wrote, despite my efforts and the changes that I see in myself, to her, I'm worse.
Yes, this makes sense. So we all repeat our attachment patterns from the past, and you're aware of that now. And you can just do a simple Google search on attachment, right, guys?
Yes,
And so
I
yeah,
am
we all
avoidant.
repeat.
I can tell you that.
Right. Yeah. So that makes sense. And we're going to run out of time here in a moment, but have you ever stood up and said, the intensity overwhelms me? That,
Yes,
okay. And so you want love and you want connection. And once it gets to a certain point, it becomes overwhelming. And the other person must desire to step into your frame. She must desire to meet you at the ground floor, as Cynthia said. She cannot continue to try to pull you into the basement. In other words, chasing her into a fight, anger, escalation, as you found, is never going to appease her. You've tried that. It's not going to appease her. And she needs to meet you in the middle. And part of meeting you in the middle is you standing for what you believe, the man that you are, that you want to be peaceful, that you don't want to fight. And your invitation into that, to that ground floor connection and conversation, has to be willing, has to be a hill you're willing to die on. You have to be willing to live that way. And Cynthia inferred this earlier too. You have to be willing to live only in that way. And it seems like you're trying that. It seems like that's the path that you're on. Is that fair to say?
yes, right, yes. It's only, I am sometimes fearful of the consequences of whatever I try to accomplish because it backfires. So the safest path of least damage for to her, that's the worst thing. The pain I see is being caused to her is just to stay quiet and stay put and just hold my ground. But after 2 hours of this, and then this, if I answer something like, "Hey, babe," she just blows up and it escalates badly. So my fear of the escalation drives the freeze, and therefore it gets stuck. It's a
Right.
cycle. I can see the cycle so clearly that I sometimes I'm like, I'm just gonna step out of the house. I'm just gonna get out of here, and
Right.
that creates even more rage because
Right.
she understands it as you don't care, therefore you're taking all these actions. Now I'm even more upset. So
Yeah.
it's
So I
it's
won't belabor this, but if she has had trauma in the past where people have abandoned her and she's trying to unconsciously repeat that to push you away so hard that you abandon her, that's a cycle that repeats throughout generations. And you don't want to do that, but it's like turning on a stereo, turning on the speaker, and it's blasting at 11 when you turn it on. And the only way you're going to be willing to dance in that music is if it turns it down or if it starts at a 2 or a 3. And all you can control, this is back to the carrot and the stick. All you can control is the man that you're being, the amount of time that you offer, and the attention that you offer her. And if she's not willing to meet you in the middle, ultimately, you're not going to want to be in front of that speaker that's blasting your ears out. So I'm glad that you're here. Definitely post in the forum, and you can always email me, guys. You can always email me if you want more guidance or to ask us questions or to follow up with us. My email address is jeff@greatmenmovemountains.com. And to have to pause there for time. I'd love to have you back another time, buddy. Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So Cynthia, take us out from there. What are you seeing with this topic? And let me jump back here to the building anew and close us out from here. Mourning the old, the way that we were when we first met, and building anew, starting with the next best step. Take us from there to close us out for today.
Yeah, I think that build anew is something I feel deeply in masculine energy, in the energy that I feel men like you practice. And sometimes women so much want to cling to the old out of their own fear. But I would offer that no matter the fire that's being spewed, no matter if she's trying to send floods to the new bridge that you're building, even if she looks as if, it just makes her even want to turn away more, you're actually giving the biggest gift to the feminine that I can even feel in my body. So regardless of whether it is with your partner, your wife, or if it is with other women in the world or young women in the world, it is something that the feminine needs so much. It helps her move out of that instinctual energy in that wagon rut. And even if it's not an immediate result, please know that you are gifting her that energy, even if she doesn't even recognize it. For 5 years, 10 years down the road, you are making a difference for her.
Awesome. Thanks, Cynthia. We appreciate you guys. Good to see you. See you next time. Bye, guys. Ciao.